Is it okay to not include comp titles in your query letter? Because they're really hard. My name is Gina. I'm an author, editor, publishing professional. I help you make your writing better. Comp titles are extremely difficult. I have an entire playlist about comp titles. I will have that linked down below so you can go watch just lots and lots of videos about this. They are not always required. So comp titles are comparative titles. These are things that you say like, hey, that sold really well, so I think my book, which is very similar to it for these reasons, will also sell really well. And it's tricky to dial this in, and you have to get somebody who is selling well, but it is not a bestseller, somebody that is recent, but is also like established a little bit, but it is also somebody that the agent is going to recognize, but is also not a household name, and they need to be similar to yours, but you're not looking for exact plot points. Like, this is tricky. I acknowledge that. There are some agents and some publishing houses that will absolutely require you to fill in comparative titles in order for you to be able to submit to them. So if you are unwilling to come up with them or unable to come up with them, then you don't get to submit to those people. Then that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Comp titles help to demonstrate that you have read extensively, that you understand the market that you are trying to publish in, that you understand your place within it, that you understand what your story is doing, that it is not just about like plot points and tropes, but that you understand like, oh, I have a voice that is similar to this person, or I describe things in a way that evokes a very deep and lush setting like this other person does. So you understand your own skill set, you understand your place within the market, you understand what the market is doing. This is a for-profit business, and people are upset about that, and I think you're justified. It sucks that we have to like cross business with art. Those things don't naturally go together very well, but it is still a for-profit business, and so the people who are helping you to sell your stuff need to know that there's a way for them to do that. What often happens, and I get a lot of clients who come to me and they say, well, there aren't any comp titles for me. I have written a book that is totally and completely unique. Nobody has ever written anything like it ever before, and to that, you're wrong. I'm sorry. That is not true. It's not. There is always something similar to something that you have done. And if you tell me that nobody has written anything like this ever before, that means that you have not done the reading that you need to do. You haven't done enough research. There is a scene in New Girl in which Nick Miller is trying to prove to Jess's dad that he can be a novelist someday. And he says, you know, I wrote half a book and it's about like werewolves and vampires. And her dad's like, oh, so it's like the Twilight thing. And Nick goes, no. Do they have werewolves and vampires in that book? Yeah. Well, is it set in Seattle? Yeah. Well, does it feature her falling in love with both of them? Yeah. Well, then whoever wrote that is smart, right? So it just shows that like Nick has no idea what he's talking about. And I know that that's not exactly right. Like there's some, there's like an error there. Like Twilight's not actually set in Seattle. Like I know. That's what the show says. But it just shows that this character doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't understand what the market is doing, and he thinks he's come up with something that is totally, completely fresh and unique and original. And he didn't. He came up with something that was already very popular and probably was going to sell just fine because it was very, very popular. People really like werewolf and vampire stories. But you need to know what is already out there, or else you look like you don't know what you're talking about. And to be very clear, this person who asked this question didn't say anything about any of that. I am just expounding on the idea here. So this is what comp titles do. They prove that you're not Nick Miller, that you are not the guy who is out here like, I'm going to write a best-selling novel without knowing anything about books or novels or publishing at all. It shows that you did your market research. It shows that your book is going to sell well, that you understand your place within that market. And so, yeah, they're important. I'm sorry.